What's going on? Welcome back to Fanatic Journey. So today we're going to talk to you on Lucid. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in stock price, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So starting off with this upcoming week, I'm sure you already know Monday is a holiday, so the market's open right now. So hopefully everyone's having a good long weekend. Aside from that, FOMC meeting minutes, and that is coming out on Wednesday. And so when it comes down to Lucid, it has bounced off of its all-time lows of roughly about $2.50, as did a lot of other growth stocks. And that was largely because of broader market optimism associated to the Feds cutting rates sooner rather than later. And because of recent data that's been coming out, CPI and PPI not necessarily being the best, this is where now you're having a lot of analysts saying, hey, look, it's going to be at the second half of 2024, not necessarily, I guess, sooner, between the anticipated March and May. So this is what's caused a lot of volatility during last week, or the tail end of last week. So this FOMC meeting minutes is going to give a very good insight to what the Feds are truly thinking. So that is going to cause a lot of volatility on Wednesday at 2 o'clock, as you can kind of see. As well, on Wednesday, you have good old NVIDIA earnings. So that is a huge earnings call that you want to listen to, especially for their future guidance. And then aside from NVIDIA, yours truly, so Lucid earnings. And so I'm going to do a dedicated video all about their expectations for their earnings and everything else. But as far as some questions that is being posed, like I've said, and I've kind of brought up in a couple of videos, they typically do bring up the first three. So these are all the questions that's being posed by retail to management. So first one is associated to the gravity, more so timeline. And then the second one, where are you at on production and delivery of Saudi orders? So this one, I feel like they always do just bring up on their own accord. They don't necessarily answer it for retail. So I don't know if this one was necessary to pose. And then the third question, I've already expressed my kind of displeasantness or just whatever displeasure about this question, because of the recent bonus, they're not going to take a salary cut, and Lucid's not in a position to do a buyback. So I don't really like that, but I was going through a lot of the questions, and I think overall, just a lot of these aren't necessarily the best. Things that I would really like to know is about China and expansion, because initially in 2021, they said they want to be in China by mid-decade, and then they kind of went silent. I believe it was Q3 2023. This is where a lot of articles started to resurge, saying that they are going to coincide it and expand at the same time as the gravity to China. So is that still a thing or not? ESS, I feel like those are the questions that logically you would want to ask, but at this stage, I think it's too late to even pose questions where it could get top three. So we're kind of stuck with this, not necessarily the most optimistic, but on a positive note, I think these questions will make it very easy for Peter, because this is going to be the very first earnings that Peter will be all by his lonesome and not really have someone, an experienced someone behind them, really saving their ass. So that's something to kind of consider. Looking at earnings per share and revenue. So as I've brought up in the past, I feel like it's good to know these metrics, but still, I don't think the market's going to really be looking at these data points and cause the stock price to go up or down as a result of this. So I do think maybe in 2024, analysts in the market's going to be starting to look at a lot more metrics closely, but right now they want to hear about their future guidance. And that has been the case in 2024. A lot of companies had phenomenal earnings, hit all the key metrics, but then they give very poor future guidance. PayPal, Shopify, very key kind of notable ones for that, and they sold off pretty significantly. But when it comes to earnings per share, right now there is 7 analysts that have given a rating, and as a consensus is negative 29 cents. It recently was negative 30 cents, so that's kind of optimistic, so a little bit more bullishness coming from analysts for that. But for revenue, not so much. So it was 10 analysts, now 11, and it went from 189.52 million to 178. So analysts aren't anticipating as much revenue. Clearly that's associated to the numbers from Q4, because the production wasn't necessarily where I think people truly wanted it, and plus deliveries as well, right? So I think this isn't necessarily the best, but as you can kind of see, the forecast done by analysts, they're anticipating like a constant revenue growth, versus what has been happening, more of a downtrend. So I think overall that is a fairly good thing overall. So aside from all of that though, it's going to be just the numbers. So the market is going to really be looking at what Lucid puts out for 2024 targets. And ideally, I think 25,000 is a good benchmark. Anything below that, it'll be a miss. Anything above that, it'll be seen as positive. But again, I'm not a financial advisor. You guys do your own due diligence. But as well, shorts have been circling Lucid quite significantly. So technically, if they do miss on their earnings, then you are going to have them jump all over Lucid once again. So going into this upcoming week, 29.82% of the free float is being shorted, and that works out to be 264.02 million shares. So it has broken off. So as you can kind of see right here, so shorts have eased off a little bit from its high of roughly about 31.3%, and that's been the all-time high for Lucid for the short interest. So that's kind of a positive thing, but as well, the market has been rallying, so I think shorts are just naturally leaving because of that. But if their earnings are bad, anticipate shorts to really double down. Something to as well consider for this upcoming week, you might see a nice pop up in the either pre-market or during the trading day once the market does open on Tuesday, and that is a result of market makers covering options. So there was roughly about 20,000 in open interest at that $3 strike price, and then 16,000 at that $3.50. And with it closing at $3.60 something cents in change, then you're going to have roughly about 36,000 options being covered. And so market makers are going to go to the open market because market makers don't really have a lot of volatile stocks such as Lucid in their inventory. So they go to the open market to buy that. So you might see a nice pop up either, like I said, pre-market or during the trading day. Going into this upcoming week though, Lucid's technicals look very, very good. And I'm going to break it down on what I mean by that. So looking quickly over here, so the technicals, if Lucid's earnings are very positive and they give very good future guidance, these technicals are probably going to hold out to be very true. So it is anticipated to get anywhere between the 484 and 521 in the short term. So of course, there's a lot of different variables this upcoming week, but if everything goes to plan, then you could see that in the short term. Kind of optimistic, of course. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. But as it stands, looking on the technicals, you do need that market push higher, whether it be because of NVIDIA earnings, Lucid earnings, or FOMC meeting minutes, or even on Thursday, the initial jobless claims. That is going to be what Lucid does need to get over its 50-day moving average. And I've said this time and time again, Lucid has always really struggled with the 50-day moving average. I think ever since 2021, there's been only like 5 occurrences that it gets over that 50-day moving average. Usually when it does do that, it has a nice breakout. So you can kind of see when this rumor came out in January 2023 about the PIF potentially taking them private. And then, but aside from that, very small few handfuls of times. So yeah, I think right now the technicals are looking very much primed and ready for a nice breakout. It just needs a nice little push. And hopefully that push comes from very positive earnings, because I think a lot of investors like myself, they've been kind of listening to Peter give rants about technology, very good optimism about the foreseeable future, and then nothing really happens. So hopefully this earnings will be genuinely very positive and a good upward kind of momentum for investors to really buy, if that makes sense. And so yeah, let me know your thoughts on Lucid. I'm going to do a dedicated video all about their earnings, so do a little bit more of a deeper dive. But I think overall this week is going to be a very volatile week, so that should be very good for options for those of you that do that. So let me know your thoughts on all that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And one final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for an account with Moonwood, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000, so take advantage of this. Link in the description below or the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.